Hi everyone, this is Margaret Manning with 60 and Me. This is the place where women over 60 come to be inspired. My guest today is Kathleen Petticord. Kathleen is the founder and publisher of Live and Retire Overseas. She has spent her life searching the world for great places to live and retire. I'd like to welcome you very much to the show, Kathleen.
Hello, good morning. It's great to be talking to you. Thank you.
Well, I'm really glad that you're here, and I must mention to everyone that the sun is shining brightly, hopefully, in Panama City, where you are living today.
It is shining brightly as it is almost every day.
And maybe that's one of the places to start is that, we when we get to be in our 50s and 60s, we start thinking about that ideal place, that place that we've always wanted to live. And sometimes it involves sun. In fact, most of the time it does. And, women start thinking about changing their location and living in another country. So you've done it many times. I'd like to get your thoughts on, what the upsides are, what the good side of investing in either property or rental overseas.
I think that the bottom line big upside here is just a complete reinvention of your life. There are lots of practical benefits. Investing in real estate in another country, it's a hard asset, just like buying real estate in your home country, but it's a hard asset that diversifies you. For market, for economy, for political situation, for currency perhaps. Mm-hmm. So there are lots of investment benefits. Buying real estate can get you residency in some countries. There are lots of practical benefits. You can generate cash flow. You can see capital appreciation. So as an investor, it's my preferred asset class. That's what my husband and I focus on. We've been buying real estate in other countries for 20 years. And I don't see any better way to diversify an investment portfolio. But what isn't apparent at first, and what I think is in fact the big benefit to this, is that while you're building an investment portfolio and while you're diversifying your investment assets, you are reinventing your life, because this isn't like buying a stock. You don't call your broker, buy, sell, put, etc. This is so much more involved. You have to be so much more engaged. There's so much more research required. And at some point, you have to get on a plane. I strongly recommend you don't buy a piece of real estate in another country without going to see it and to get to know the country and the market a little bit. So you're going to get on a plane. You're very engaged. You're very personally invested. Your time is invested. And what you find happens organically over time is suddenly this place where you may have in the beginning thought you were investing, you were diversifying your portfolio, is now a part of your life. And you've gotten to know it. Mm-hmm. And you've made friends and you have neighbors and you're part of the community. And, suddenly 3 years later, 5 years later, this is a part of your life, and as a result, organically, your life is very changed for the better, I believe.
Yeah, no, I think you've really summed up, I think, the two main categories there. The first is that it is a financial investment, and that can be very positive if you choose the countries right. And I'm going to tell people how to get that information from you, because there's certainly not a shortage of data online about living abroad. But I think the other part of it, which is equally true, is that, you do get a chance to choose a culture that is aligned to a part of you that you may not have been expressing,
Exactly. And I really recommend that that's the place to start. Don't treat an investment or a purchase of property in another country the way you would a stock or most other kinds of investments. Don't buy for the asset, the particular asset. Right. Buy because it's a place you want to spend time, because you will, whether you want to or not, have to spend time there. So why not want to? So I really strongly recommend that you start with finding a place that you want to spend time, that you want an excuse to return to, so that every time you have to go back to check on your rental property or to meet with your rental manager or et cetera, you're looking forward to it and you're thinking, oh yeah, I get to go back, rather than, oh my gosh, I have to go back there again. I wish I didn't have to deal with this.
And if you decide to stay there and actually live in a country like you have in Panama, every morning you get up and you love it, or at least you know why you're there, that you made the decision. It was aligned to your values and to your lifestyle.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a chance to, I think retirees and especially women in their 60s and beyond can feel a little helpless, a little vulnerable, and like life is beyond your control. Making an investment like this is I think, really an ideal way to take control. You take control by making choices and making
Yes,
decisions. And
totally.
doing something like this, buying a piece of real estate in another country, it's all about making very new choices, very new decisions. And with every one that you make, you're more confident, you're more self-assured, you're better prepared to make the next one and the next one and the next choice after that. And suddenly you'll find, I don't feel so vulnerable anymore. I feel much more in control. And it won't just be psychological. You will be more in control of your life, your future.
That's a really great way of looking at it. And I think you're totally right that we do become vulnerable when the things that supported us and defined us, like our children, our family, our jobs, are no longer there to define and support us, that we are now
Exactly.
having to start really kind of in many ways from scratch. So we've done the good. Sounds great. Everyone's like getting ready to go. And by the way, Kathleen has a fabulous e-letter that you send out every day. And it sounds like a lot, but I love getting it.
Thank you.
And you talk about really wherever, you think is important at that moment. And it's just all the facts, practical facts that you need about moving to another country. So you can visit
Yeah.
Kathleen's website, which is
Liveandinvestoverseas.com.
Okay, liveandinvestoverseas.com. Great. Anyway, you've got the good done now. We know how fabulous it could be. What about the downsides?
The downsides are that, again, this isn't like buying a stock. This is very intense from a management and a personal investment of time and resources point of view. You've got, it's, it's complicated to identify where you're going to buy and then what you're going to buy. It's complicated, and it takes time to vet what you're going to buy, to make sure that it's safe, that the title is clear and clean, and that you're getting a good price. It's, in the rest of the world, there's no such thing outside the United States as a multiple listing service. It makes it very hard to shop for real estate and to compare prices. There's no easy way to find comps. Americans, if you can go online, put in the address of a piece of property anywhere in the United States and find out its current value, and then compare that to something that you're thinking about buying down the street or in that same city or what have you. It's so easy to understand what you're buying and if you're getting a good, fair price in the United States. That doesn't exist in the rest of the world. So it's a bigger challenge. It definitely is a bigger challenge to make sure that you're paying a good price, that you're getting what you're paying for. Then, once you've gone through all that and you've made the purchase, there are ongoing obligations and responsibilities and requirements. You've got maintenance and repairs, and you've got bills to pay. You might have HOA fees. You might have property taxes. These are things that are going to be dealt with in ways different from how you're used to dealing with property taxes, for example. And all of it's going to take place probably in another language, unless you're buying in Belize or Ireland or New Zealand, say, it's going to be in another language. So it's the hassle factor can be very high. And that can make this not make sense for some people who aren't up for that. The upsides are great, but it's not something to go into lightly.
It's a responsibility, and it's a good point that you've mentioned about language, because even though the people in the country might speak English, that may be very common in the shops and in the town. The documents, the government are in the home language, so I think that's a really important thing. And I guess the ugly of this whole thing could be when those things go to the extreme, and you have government intervention or.
And it does go wrong. And I've been doing this, as you said, for 30 years, and I've seen it go wrong a lot of times. And that is honestly is a part of what we really try to help people avoid. When I started writing about these topics 30 years ago, the internet didn't exist. So
I remember that.
Exactly. So on the one hand, that made it harder because it definitely made it more expensive to disseminate this kind of information. We had to do crazy old school things like buy paper and stamps. So all of that has gone away. So now it's way easier, more efficient, and definitely way, way cheaper to disseminate and share this kind of information. On the other hand, the other side of that is because it's so easy and so cheap, the cost can be almost nothing. Loads of people do it who don't actually have loads of experience at these things. So today you go online, you go to Google and you type in buy real estate overseas, and you're going to find hundreds of thousands of resources to help you do that. The challenge is to filter through them and to know who actually knows what they're talking about. And so that's a big part of what we do. We try to talk about this in a very real world, down to earth, firsthand, from our own experience kind of way, because there is just a lot of misinformation circulating on this topic.
And I think that is one of the value adds that you and your team bring to this whole process. I mean, you have a fabulous website, and it really is full of the truth. I mean, like you just feel like we can trust what you're writing, and I think that's super important.
Thank you.
So
Yeah.
I'm really valuing that. So okay, we've got the opportunity out there, we've got the whole world, but I'm gathering from your judgment, there's probably three main areas in the world to consider for purchasing property. Maybe you can
Right.
give us a overview of what those three might be and maybe one example.
Okay. At any point, right, we have a short list of places we're focused on. Panama remains one. I've been talking about Panama, writing about Panama, and spending time here for 15 years. It is still a really great choice for retirement and for investment. Because this market, the Panamanian economy is so strong, mostly fueled by the Panama Canal, which is being
Yes.
expanded.
Yeah.
That's generating billions of dollars of cash flow through a country of 3.5 million people. Put that in perspective. In the country this size, with this population, the cash flow from the Panama Canal is enormous. And the country's very smart about reinvesting it in the country, in infrastructure, et cetera. So the Panama is better suited, I think, than almost any country you could think of to ride out global cyclical events, recessions and ups and downs, because the whole world is going to continue needing and using the Panama Canal, no matter what's going on anywhere else, good times, bad times. The Panama Canal, I'm looking at it, in fact, it's right out my window, and the ships are always lined up. There's never a gap in the queue of ships waiting to go through the Panama Canal.
Good.
It's a big deal in this little country. So from an investor point of view, that gives, I think, great sense of security in the future of the asset you're buying. From a retiree's point of view, this is one of the most developed choices you could make, because Americans, North Americans, and others have been retiring in Panama for the past 10 years or longer. And there's such an established, welcoming community of expats to help you figure out what to do. So I think of Panama as kind of a halfway house for the foreign retiree.
Okay.
You don't have to go really local. You don't have to learn Spanish if you don't want to. You can have loads of other foreign retirees for your friends and for support. So from that point of view, it's probably the easiest retirement choice there is. In Europe, I would highlight right now Portugal, which is more affordable than Panama right now. It's a crazy statement, but I spent time in Portugal over the summer, and my husband and I did some very close cost comparisons. Given the strength of the US dollar right now, if you have US dollars to spend versus the euro, Portugal is unbelievably affordable. You could live well in Portugal right now on $1,200, $1,300, $1,400 a month on the coast. That's unprecedented. It's a big window of opportunity for someone with US dollars to spend, both to travel there, to enjoy Portugal, which is a great country with a beautiful coast, to think about retiring there, and definitely to buy real estate there, because the country is coming off a deep, deep recession following 2008. And the window is there. The country is beginning to turn, but I would say that for the next year, 18 months, it's definitely a top choice.
Okay.
If you want me to talk about it one more place, I could throw
let's
one
do
more
Asia.
place out.
Yeah.
In Asia, I would recommend Thailand,
Okay.
where I think that there is the most developed, again, infrastructure for the foreign buyer, where you're going to have the most support, and where there's lots of lifestyle option, coast, mountains, Bangkok, etc. So I think Thailand, in that part of the world, I would highlight.
Wow. Okay. I've been taking mental notes. Actually, Portugal is interesting because I live in Switzerland, of course, so it's in Europe, and it is surprising to hear you make the comments about its value as opposed to a Latin American country. But
Right.
but it's great to have those three choices, and we're going to do some other videos where we'll talk about these places in a bit more detail. But it's wonderful to have an overview, and I hope that everyone who's watching has found this of value. And I would encourage you to go to Kathleen's website and sign up for the e-letter and learn. There's no harm in getting the information and just educating yourself. And Kathleen, thank you so much for everything you do, all the hard work.
Thank you very much. It's been great to talk to you.
I
Thank you.
appreciate it. Thank you, Kathleen.